March 24th, 1993, 7:34 p.m. A father walks through an unlocked door, calling his daughter's name. Carmen. Carmen. Silence. Then he sees it. Blood everywhere. On the walls. Pooled on the floor. And there, next to her bed, his 19-year-old daughter. Naked. Stabbed 61 times. For 31 years, her killer walked free. Working at a university. Living a normal life. While a family's world stayed shattered. But DNA doesn't forget. And neither did the detectives who refused to let Carmen Van Huss become just another statistic. If you're here for deep dives into cases where justice finally wins, hit that like button right now, drop a comment with the case you want next, and subscribe to Buried Secret Media. Let's get into it. Indianapolis, Indiana. Spring of 1993. Turtle Creek Apartment Complex, 8200 block of Harcourt Road. Carmen Hope Van Huss was building her future. 19 years old. Freshman at IUPUI studying art. Working at Pizza Hut to pay her way through college. Beautiful. Vibrant. Always happy. Her brother Jimmy was 14, 6 years younger, but they were getting closer. The kind of sibling bond that was just starting to deepen. Their father? He adored Carmen. Proud of her independence. Her drive. Her ambition. Monday night, March 22nd. Carmen leaves her dad's house around 10 p.m. She's heading back to her apartment to do laundry. Mundane. Normal. The kind of thing college students do every day. Her father thinks nothing of it. Why would he? Carmen arrives at Turtle Creek. Neighbors later tell police they heard her with a man in her apartment. Laughing. Having a good time. Nothing seemed wrong. But at some point that night, everything changed. Multiple witnesses heard yelling. A struggle. Then a woman's voice screaming 3 words that would haunt this case for decades. Get off of me. Footsteps. Someone running. Hurrying away through the building's interior corridors. Then silence. Wednesday afternoon, March 24th. Carmen's scheduled to work at Pizza Hut. Her shift starts. She doesn't show up. Minutes turn into an hour. This isn't like Carmen. She's reliable. When she's scheduled, she's there. A coworker calls her apartment. No answer. Growing concerned, they make a call that changes everything. They call Carmen's father. He tries calling. Again. And again. No answer. That knot of worry in his stomach tightens into real fear. Something's wrong. Carmen would have called if she couldn't make her shift. She would have answered her phone. He drives to Turtle Creek. Arrives at Carmen's door. It's unlocked. He pushes it open. Calls out. Carmen? Nothing. He steps inside. The apartment's in disarray. Table knocked over. Clothes scattered. And blood. So much blood. Then he finds his daughter. Carmen's lying naked on the floor next to her bed. Surrounded by a pool of blood. Blood spatter on the walls. This is every parent's nightmare made real. 7:34 p.m. Marion County Sheriff deputies respond. What they find will haunt even seasoned investigators. The scene tells a story of violence. Of struggle. Of brutality. Furniture overturned. Blood everywhere. Carmen's body shows signs of a sustained assault. The coroner's office later determines she has multiple puncture wounds to her head, face, and body. 61 stab wounds. 61 separate times someone plunged a blade into this young woman. Cause of death, stab wounds to the head. Manner of death, homicide. But there's more. Carmen was sexually assaulted. This isn't just murder. It's rape and murder. Investigators collect evidence. DNA on Carmen's body. In her kitchen, they find a paper bag in the trash. On that bag, a bloodstain. The blood isn't Carmen's. It belongs to her killer. In 1993, that blood sample could confirm a suspect's identity if they had someone to compare it to. But without a suspect, without a name, it's just evidence waiting for its moment to matter. For the Van Huss family, March 24th divides their lives into before and after. Jimmy Van Huss is 14 years old. He learns about his sister's death in the worst way possible. He's at home, turns on the TV news. There's footage from outside Carmen's apartment. And there, visible on screen, are his parents on the balcony. His father hugging his mother. Both crying. Even through the television, even without sound, he can see their anguish. That's how he learned his sister was murdered. Her murder changed everything about all of us, Jimmy would later say. Especially my father. He was never ever the same. How could he be? He found his daughter murdered. Saw what had been done to her. That image burned into his memory forever. It would haunt his dreams. Shape his waking hours. Leave a wound that would never heal. "We hope people understand just how violent my sister's murder was," Jimmy says. "She was raped and stabbed over 60 times, and my dad had to see her like that. Blood everywhere. Blood on walls. His daughter naked, laying there. He had to see that. That changed him forever." In the days after Carmen's murder, Marion County Sheriff's Office and Indianapolis Metro Police launch a full-scale investigation. Detectives interview dozens of people. Every door in Turtle Creek gets knocked on. They talk to neighbors, co-workers, friends, classmates. Hundreds of leads. Every single one examined and traced. Witnesses come forward. The neighbors who heard laughter earlier that evening. The ones who heard yelling and screaming. The witness who heard someone running away. Every piece of information cataloged, analyzed, cross-referenced. They have DNA evidence. That bloodstain on the paper bag is key. If they find a suspect, they can match it. But there's the problem. They have evidence, but no suspect. They have witnesses, but no one saw the killer's face. They have dozens of leads, but none pan out. Potential suspects identified, investigated, eliminated. One by one. The investigation consumes countless hours. Timelines constructed. Carmen's last movements mapped out. Everyone in her life examined. Similar crimes researched, looking for patterns. They work the case from every angle. But weeks turn to months. Months stretch toward a year. The leads dry up. Every promising tip hits a dead end. Every potential suspect gets cleared. The detectives don't give up, but they have other cases. Active investigations that might yield results. Carmen's case begins its slow slide into the category every detective dreads. Cold case. For the Van Huss family, life becomes an exercise in survival. Grief isn't linear. It doesn't follow neat stages. For a family dealing with murder, especially unsolved murder, grief becomes a constant companion. It shapes every birthday, every holiday, every milestone. Jimmy grows up in the shadow of his sister's unsolved murder. High school, graduation, adulthood, all while carrying the weight that somewhere, Carmen's killer is still free, still living, still breathing while Carmen stays forever 19. Their father carries his own burden. The images from that night never leave him. How could they? He found his daughter's body, saw what was done to her. That trauma, combined with watching the investigation stall, watching years pass without answers, without justice, it takes a visible toll. His family watches him struggle every single day. Meanwhile, Carmen's case file sits among hundreds of others. Evidence preserved. Witness statements documented. DNA samples stored properly. Waiting. But with no new leads, no fresh information, the case stays dormant. This is the reality of cold cases. They don't stay cold because detectives don't care. They stay cold because every lead's been exhausted. Every witness interviewed. Every piece of evidence analyzed with available technology. Without new information or new technology, there's nowhere else to go. But the Van Huss family refuses to let Carmen be forgotten. They keep her memory alive. Stay in contact with police. Make sure Carmen's name doesn't disappear. And they wait. Hope. Pray that someday, somehow, there'll be a break. Year 2000. 7 years after Carmen's murder. Indianapolis Metro Police reopen her case. Cold cases get periodically reviewed when new techniques or technologies become available. DNA testing is advancing. Smaller samples. Degraded evidence. Now solvable. Detectives request Carmen's DNA be entered into state and national databases. CODIS, the Combined DNA Index System. If Carmen's killer committed another crime elsewhere or got arrested for anything, there might be a match. They obtain a DNA sample from a witness, a person of interest, someone connected to Carmen or present in the area at the time. The sample's analyzed, compared to DNA from Carmen's crime scene. Not a match. The witness is eliminated in December 2009. Back to square one. Back to waiting. 2013. 20 years since Carmen's murder. Technology keeps advancing. DNA testing more sophisticated, more sensitive, more capable. Further DNA evidence from Carmen's case gets analyzed using newer techniques. Results are encouraging and frustrating. The analysis successfully identifies DNA from two individuals, Carmen Van Huss and an unknown male. This confirms what investigators always believed, that blood on the paper bag belongs to her killer. But it also confirms the heartbreaking reality. They still don't know who that killer is. The unknown male's DNA profile gets entered into databases. Searches run. Comparisons made. Nothing. No matches in Cody's. No matches to convicted offenders. No matches to other crime scenes. The unknown male stays unknown. For Carmen's family, another crushing disappointment. Science confirms they have the killer's DNA, his genetic fingerprint. But without a name, without a person to compare it to, that profile's just data. Important data. Crucial evidence. But not enough to solve the case. Not yet. 2018. 25 years. A quarter of a century since Carmen was murdered. Jimmy's entire adult life lived in this shadow. His father growing older, that terrible night visible in ways both obvious and subtle. But in 2018, a glimmer of hope. An IMPD detective makes a decision that will change everything. The detective submits a DNA sample from Carmen's case to Parabon NanoLabs, a DNA technology company specializing in cutting-edge forensic analysis. Parabon isn't just another testing lab. They're pioneers. DNA phenotyping, predicting physical characteristics from DNA alone. Eye color, hair color, skin color, face shape, and most importantly, genetic genealogy. Genetic genealogy. The technique that caught the Golden State Killer in April 2018. Joseph DeAngelo had been killing and raping for decades. One of California's most prolific serial killers. Unidentified despite extensive investigation. Genetic genealogy changed everything. By comparing crime scene DNA to public genealogy databases, investigators constructed family trees and narrowed suspects down to DeAngelo himself. The technique is new but remarkably effective. Parabon conducts a snapshot advanced DNA analysis on Carmen's sample. DNA phenotyping and genetic genealogy. Cutting-edge technology offering new ways to generate leads. But this takes time. Comparing unknown DNA to potentially millions of profiles. Building family trees. Identifying common ancestors. Tracing lines of descent. It's detective work done with genetic data. The samples submitted in 2018. Analysis conducted. And then they wait. The Van Huss family waits. Detectives wait. Carmen's case stays cold, but now something's happening behind the scenes. A new avenue. A reason to hope. Summer 2023. 5 years since that DNA sample went to Parabon. 5 years of complex analysis. Building family trees. Tracing genetic lineages through multiple generations. Carmen's family continuing to wait. Hope. Wonder if this technology will finally give them answers. 30 years after Carmen's murder, detectives receive news that reignites everything. Parabon has a lead. Using genetic genealogy, examining DNA from Carmen's crime scene against genealogical databases, Parabon identifies someone who might be related to the person of interest. Not a direct match to the killer. A genetic breadcrumb. Someone in the databases shares enough DNA with the unknown male to suggest a family relationship. This is how genetic genealogy works. Crime scene DNA compared to databases like GEDmatch, where people voluntarily upload DNA results. When partial matches are found, genetic genealogists work backwards, constructing family trees to find common ancestors. From there, they trace forward, identifying potential candidates. Right age, right place, right profile. In Carmen's case, this leads investigators to people in close proximity to her apartment at the time of her murder. They cross-reference genetic leads with original investigation files. Who lived at Turtle Creek in March '93? Who was interviewed? Who was ruled out and why? And there, in the intersection of genetic genealogy and traditional detective work, a name emerges. Dana Jermaine Shepard. Dana Shepard is 51 years old in 2023. He was 20 in 1993 when Carmen was murdered. And according to investigation files, Shepard lived in the same apartment complex as Carmen. Crucial detail. Turtle Creek apartments had internal connections, shared common areas. The laundry room was one of these spaces. Carmen went home to do laundry the night she was killed. She and Shepard lived in close proximity with easy access through interior corridors. Witnesses heard Carmen with a man that night. Laughing, talking, later, yelling, a scream, footsteps running away. Someone left Carmen's apartment after the attack, fleeing through those corridors. Detectives dig into Shepard's background. What they find is telling. Criminal history in Indiana before Carmen's murder. Arrested for battery. Public intoxication in 1992, just a year before Carmen was killed. History of violence. Demonstrated willingness to harm others. After Carmen's murder, Shepard left Indiana, moved to Missouri, established a new life, found employment, went about his business like nothing happened. Missouri criminal record includes stealing in 2001, disturbing the peace in 2009, driving without a license in 2013. Nothing violent. Nothing flagging him as dangerous. Nothing causing authorities to take his DNA. In 2023, Dana Shepard works as a custodian at the University of Missouri in Columbia, living a seemingly normal life, going to work every day, interacting with coworkers, walking campus, all while Carmen Van Huss has been dead for 30 years. Now, genetic genealogy has given investigators a lead, a name, a person to investigate. Next step, confirm Shepard's DNA matches DNA from Carmen's crime scene. Genetic genealogy points the direction, but it's not enough for prosecution. They need a direct match. June 2024. IMPD detectives travel to Columbia, Missouri. Their mission, obtain a DNA sample from Dana Shepard for traditional forensic testing. This is done through surveillance and collection of abandoned DNA. When someone drinks from a cup, uses a tissue, throws away any item with their DNA, that item can be legally collected and tested. Detectives obtain a sample, send it to Marion County Forensic Services Agency for analysis. More waiting for lab results that will either confirm Shepard as Carmen's killer or rule him out. The call comes from the lab. Results are definitive. Dana Shepard's DNA profile matches DNA samples found at the crime scene. Matches the bloodstain on the paper bag in Carmen's kitchen. Matches biological evidence on Carmen's body. Not a partial match. Not a close match. Positive identification. Dana Shepard was in Carmen Van Huss's apartment. His blood left at the scene. His DNA on her body. After 31 years, detectives finally know who killed Carmen Van Huss. Thursday, August 29, 2024. Detectives seek and are granted an arrest warrant for Dana Shepard, charged with 2 counts of murder, 1 count of felony murder, 1 count of rape. The wheels of justice, stalled for so long, finally turning. Friday, August 30th. Columbia, Missouri. IMPD coordinates with Boone County Sheriff's Office. Dana Shepard, now 52 years old, is taken into custody, arrested without incident. After living his life free while Carmen's family suffered, Dana Shepard is finally in handcuffs, facing justice. IMPD detectives travel to Missouri to interview him. They want his side, his explanation, any shred of remorse. Shepard invokes his right to legal representation, refuses to speak with detectives. No confession, no explanation, no apology to the family he devastated. Shepard's booked into Boone County Jail. Extradition hearing scheduled. The University of Missouri immediately terminates his employment. Revokes campus access. Tuesday, September 3, 2024. Indianapolis Metro Police hold a press conference. 31 years, for months, and 10 days since Carmen's murder. 31 years of waiting, wondering, hoping. Deputy Chief Kendall Adams addresses the media. This arrest, more than 30 years after the senseless murder of Carmen Van Huss, demonstrates the dedication and perseverance of IMPD detectives, the Marion County Forensic Services Agency, and the Marion County Prosecutor's Office. It's a testament to the power of genetic genealogy. Marion County Prosecutor Ryan Mears adds, for more than 31 years, Van Huss's family and friends never had closure. The detectives were relentless. When witnesses weren't available because we couldn't find them or they'd passed away, the crime lab and coroner's office stepped up and retested evidence to put us in a position where we're confident we can get this admitted in court. But the most powerful statement comes from Jimmy Van Huss, 14 years old when his sister was murdered, learning of her death by seeing his parents crying on TV news, watching his father never fully recover. She was taken from me when I was a freshman in high school, Jimmy says. And I'm glad the man who did it is where he belongs. For my dad to have to find his daughter after what was brutally done to her makes this day bittersweet. I wish he was here to see it. Carmen's father passed away without seeing justice. Never saw Shepard arrested. Never saw him face charges. Never got that closure. Jimmy continues, we hope people understand just how violent my sister's murder was. She was raped and stabbed over 60 times, and my dad had to see her like that. Blood everywhere. Blood on walls. His daughter naked, laying there. He had to see that. That changed him forever. His message expands to all families still waiting. One of our biggest hopes is to bring more attention to all cold cases. We want them all to get this treatment. The DNA genealogy treatment. We'd love a bill, a law, a procedure, something in Carmen's memory to get the attention other cases deserve. Behind this breakthrough is an organization that deserves recognition. Season of Justice. Founded in 2020 by Ashley Flowers, creator of the Crime Junkie podcast, it's a nonprofit providing financial support to investigative agencies through grants for advanced DNA testing in cold cases. The problem Season of Justice addresses is simple and frustrating. Advanced DNA testing is expensive. Tests range from $2,000 to $5,000 for straightforward cases, up to $28,000 for complex analyses. Many police departments, especially smaller agencies facing budget constraints, can't afford these costs. They have DNA evidence that could solve cold cases, but no funding for testing that would make solutions possible. Season of Justice steps in. Law enforcement agencies in the US, Canada, UK, or Australia apply for grants on their website. Indicate testing type and preferred lab. The lab bills Season of Justice directly. Removes the financial barrier. For Carmen's case, Season of Justice provided funding for IMPD to work with Parabon NanoLabs. Without that support, the DNA sample might still be in storage, waiting for funding that might never come. Ashley Flowers released a statement. Season of Justice extends our deepest gratitude to IMPD detectives who never gave up. Their dedication is admirable, and we're humbled we could support their efforts. This demonstrates how persistence, evolving forensic technology, and collaboration can impact long-standing cold cases. We hope this brings some measure of peace to those who love and miss Carmen. As of 2025, Season of Justice has solved 15 cases and identified 21 previously unknown victims. A new model for addressing cold cases. Leveraging true crime audience passion to provide real help to law enforcement and families seeking justice. Dana Shepard remains in Boone County Jail following his arrest, held without bond. Extradition hearing September 4th. Shepard appears before a Missouri judge to determine if he'll be returned to Indiana. November 12, 2024. The Missouri judge rules Shepard can be extradited. He's transported back to Indiana, booked into Marion County Jail. After decades in Missouri building a life while Carmen's family mourned, Shepard's back in Marion County to face justice. November 13th. Shepard appears in court. 2 counts of murder. 1 count of rape. If convicted on all charges, maximum sentence 105 years. Trial initially scheduled for January 21st, 2025. But trials are expensive and time-consuming. The evidence is extraordinarily strong. Prosecutors and defense attorneys begin discussions about a plea agreement. January 2025. A plea agreement is reached. Shepard will plead guilty to 1 count of murder. In exchange, prosecutors dismiss remaining charges, including the second murder charge and rape charge. Why accept a plea deal after such brutality? After 31 years of freedom, while Carmen's family suffered? The answer lies in pragmatic realities. Trials are uncertain. Even with strong evidence, risks exist. Juries might fail to convict. Evidence might be excluded. Appeals might drag on for years. A plea agreement provides certainty. Guarantees the defendant will be held accountable. Will serve time. Under the agreement, Shepard gets 45 years in Indiana Department of Corrections. At 54 years old, this effectively means life in prison. He'll be 99 if he serves the entire sentence. For all practical purposes, a life sentence. January 21st, 2025. Dana Shepard stands before a judge. Formally enters his guilty plea to 1 count of murder in the death of Carmen Hope Van Huss. After more than 31 years, the man who killed Carmen has admitted his guilt. The judge accepts the plea. Shepard's sentencing hearing scheduled for Friday, February 13th, 2025 at 9 a.m. That hearing will give the Van Huss family their opportunity to address the court. To tell the judge about Carmen, about what her loss meant, about 3 decades spent waiting for justice. In the wake of Shepard's arrest and Carmen's case resolution, her family and supporters begin working to ensure her death leads to lasting change. Jimmy spoke repeatedly about his hope that other families with cold cases could access the same advanced DNA testing. That hope takes concrete form with House Bill 1248, legislation introduced in Indiana General Assembly by Representative Kerry Hamilton. Directly inspired by Carmen's case and the Van Huss family's advocacy, Carmen Van Huss was murdered in 1993, Hamilton tells colleagues. Her family and friends were left without knowing who killed her for 33 years. Advanced DNA testing helped bring justice. Her killer arrested soon after results were released. House Bill 1248 establishes legal frameworks for private funding for DNA testing in cold cases. Allows organizations like Season of Justice to more easily provide grants to law enforcement agencies, county coroners, and families of cold case victims. Hamilton emphasizes the scope of the problem. Indiana currently has over 7,000 unsolved cold case homicides, more than 1,100 missing person cold cases. Many contain DNA evidence that, with modern technology, could be reanalyzed and potentially solved. This legislation helps families, helps law enforcement, keeps our community safer, Hamilton says, urging colleagues to support the bill. Thursday, January 23, 2025. House Bill 1248 passes third reading in Indiana House of Representatives. The vote is unanimous, 92-0. Not a single representative voted against it. A powerful statement of support for cold case victims and their families. The bill moves to Indiana Senate. Senators Cindy Carrasco and Rodney Pohl assigned as sponsors. Co-authors include Representatives Wendy McNamara, Garrett Bascom, and Maureen Bauer. Bipartisan support. If passed into law, House Bill 1248 will make Indiana a leader in facilitating advanced DNA testing for cold cases. Create clear legal pathways for private organizations to fund testing. Remove bureaucratic obstacles. Most importantly, offer hope to thousands of families still waiting for answers. Jimmy Van Huss, speaking about the bill, expresses gratitude and hope. I'm thankful the man who did it is where he needs to be. I hope any similar case with DNA can get similar treatment. The DNA genealogy treatment. We'd love a bill, a law, a procedure, something in Carmen's memory to get the attention other cases deserve. Carmen Van Huss's legacy extends far beyond her own case. Her murder was tragedy. Her father's suffering was profound. Her family's 3-decade wait was an ordeal no family should endure. But out of that darkness, something positive emerges. A law helping solve cold cases across Indiana. A model other states might follow. Real, tangible difference in lives of families still waiting for answers. Throughout this case, one name appears repeatedly in Van Huss family statements. Captain Bill Carter of Indianapolis Metropolitan Police Department. While many detectives worked Carmen's case over years, Carter became particularly important during final investigation years. We're so thankful Captain Bill Carter was told my sister's name, Jimmy says. The family praises Carter for spending significant amounts of his own free time working Carmen's case, maintaining contact with them, refusing to let the case gather dust. I spoke to the family, and we wanted to keep working it until we figured something out or exhausted it, Carter explains. That dedication, that refusal to give up, that willingness to invest personal time and energy into a decades-old cold case made all the difference. But Carter wasn't alone. Deputy Chief Kendall Adams acknowledges the team effort. This arrest demonstrates dedication and perseverance of IMPD detectives, Marion County Forensic Services Agency, and Marion County Prosecutor's Office. Prosecutor Ryan Mears emphasizes the collaboration. Detectives were relentless tracking down available witnesses. When witnesses weren't available because we couldn't find them or they'd passed away, the crime lab and coroner's office stepped up and retested things. This is the reality of cold case work. Not glamorous. Painstaking. Requires dedication beyond normal job responsibilities. Means working cases that might never be solved. Might never result in arrest. Might never bring closure. Coming back year after year, hoping new technology or fresh perspective might finally crack them open. For detectives who worked Carmen's case, Shepard's arrest represents decades of effort culminating. From initial investigators in '93 who processed the scene and conducted crucial interviews, to detectives who reopened the case in 2000, to forensic scientists who kept analyzing evidence as technology improved, to Captain Carter and colleagues who finally saw it through to arrest. Each person played a role in bringing Dana Shepard to justice. February 13, 2025, 9 a.m. Dana Jermaine Shepard appears in Marion County Superior Court for sentencing. He stands before the judge, having pled guilty to one count of murder in Carmen Hope Van Huss's death. This is the moment the Van Huss family waited 31 years, 10 months, and 22 days to see. The judge formally sentences Shepard to 45 years in Indiana Department of Corrections. At 54 years old, this effectively means Shepard dies in prison. The man who took Carmen's life at 19 will spend the rest of his own life behind bars. With sentencing complete, Dana Shepard is remanded to custody, transported to begin serving his sentence. Legal proceedings that began with his arrest in August 2024 have reached their conclusion. Carmen Van Huss's murder has been adjudicated, her killer held accountable. It's easy in cases like this to focus so much on investigation, technology, arrest, and prosecution that we lose sight of the person at the center. Carmen Hope Van Huss wasn't just a victim in a cold case, not just DNA evidence waiting to be matched. She was a real person who lived and loved and had dreams. An art student who saw beauty in the world. An animal lover who showed compassion. A daughter her father adored. A sister her brother was growing closer to. A coworker who showed up reliably. A friend who made people smile. A young woman full of happiness and potential. Carmen was 19 years old. She should have had her whole life ahead. Should have graduated from IUPUI with her art degree. Built a career doing what she loved. Fallen in love, gotten married, maybe had children. Should have grown old, accumulated decades of memories and experiences and relationships. All of that stolen in March 1993. All those potential experiences, all those could-have-beens, ended in that apartment. Carmen Hope Van Huss was 19 years old. She deserved so much more than what happened to her. Her family ensured Carmen wasn't forgotten, kept her memory alive, fought for justice in her name, advocated for other families dealing with unsolved murders. Now, with House Bill 1248 moving through Indiana legislature, Carmen's legacy extends far beyond her case. Other families will benefit from the legal framework established in her name. Other cold cases will be solved using testing techniques that finally identified her killer. Carmen deserved better than what happened. But because of her family's advocacy and law enforcement dedication, her death led to positive change. Doesn't make the tragedy less heartbreaking, but it means Carmen's life and death had meaning beyond the terrible circumstances of her murder. Deputy Chief Kendall Adams addressed other families dealing with unsolved murders at the press conference. His message is important. I don't want you to think we've forgotten about you. We hear you. We know today opens a wound for you. We remain dedicated to bringing justice to all victims and will continue to pursue every lead, no matter how much time has passed. This is the reality of cold case work. Every solved case is victory, but also reminder to families still waiting. Seeing Carmen's case solved after 31 years must have been bittersweet. Happy the Van Huss family got answers, but wondering if their own cases will ever be solved. Adams encouraged families to reach out to the homicide office. We're committed to getting you answers and finding funding for this DNA testing. If you're a family member dealing with unsolved murder, resources are available. Law enforcement agencies have cold case units. Organizations like Season of Justice provide funding for DNA testing. Genetic genealogy means cases that seemed hopeless a decade ago now have real potential. It requires persistence, advocacy, staying in contact with investigators, not letting your loved one's case be forgotten. But as Carmen Van Huss's case demonstrates, justice delayed isn't necessarily justice denied. Even after 31 years, answers are possible. Accountability is possible. Justice is possible. Carmen Hope Van Huss's case is a story of tragedy and perseverance. Tragedy in the brutal murder of a young woman with her whole life ahead. Tragedy in a father who never recovered. Tragedy in a family that waited 31 years. But also perseverance. Detectives who refused to give up. Forensic scientists who kept applying new technologies. A family that never stopped advocating. A nonprofit that provided funding when needed. Legislative effort helping other families access the same tools. August 30th, 2024. Dana Jermaine Shepard arrested for Carmen's murder. January 21st, 2025. He pled guilty. February 13th, 2025. Sentenced to 45 years. After 3 decades of freedom, Carmen's killer finally faced accountability. This case demonstrates the power of modern forensic science, particularly genetic genealogy, to solve seemingly unsolvable cold cases. demonstrates the importance of evidence preservation and periodically reviewing cases as new technologies emerge, demonstrates the crucial role funding plays in making advanced DNA testing accessible. Most importantly, it demonstrates that families matter. The Van Huss family's advocacy, their refusal to let Carmen be forgotten, their willingness to speak publicly, their push for legislation helping other families. All of this made a difference, not just in solving Carmen's case, but in creating change benefiting countless other families dealing with unsolved murders. Carmen Hope Van Huss was 19 years old when she was murdered in March 1993. She should have had her whole life ahead. Instead, she became another victim, another cold case file, another family waiting for answers. But now, thanks to science, persistence, and unwavering dedication to justice, her case is solved, her killer held accountable, and her legacy will live on in legislation bearing her name and in cases solved using the same techniques that finally brought Dana Shepard to justice. If this story moved you, if you want more deep dives into cases where justice finally wins, smash that like button. Drop a comment telling me what case you want covered next. And subscribe to Buried Secret Media for more stories that deserve to be told. We're here to give voice to victims, shine light on cold cases, and celebrate when persistence pays off and justice is served. Rest in peace, Carmen Hope Van Huss. Your family fought for you. Your case inspired change. Your memory will never be forgotten.